Bangladesh is a low-lying, riverine country located in South Asia with a largely marshy jungle coastline of 710 km on the northern littoral of the Bay of Bengal. Formed by a delta plain at the confluence of the Ganges, Brahmaputra, and Meghna Rivers and their tributaries, Bangladesh's alluvial soil is highly fertile, but vulnerable to flood and drought. Hills rise above the plain only in the Chittagong Hill Tracts in the far southeast and the Sylhet division in the northeast. Straddling the Tropic of Cancer, Bangladesh has a tropical monsoon climate characterized by heavy seasonal rainfall, high temperatures, and high humidity. Natural disasters, such as floods, tornadoes, and tidal bores affect the country yearly. Bangladesh also is affected by major cyclones, on average 16 times a decade. A cyclone struck the southeastern coast in May 1991, killing 136,000 people. Cyclone Sidr struck the southwestern coast on November 15, 2007, affecting not only the coastal districts of the administrative division Khulna but also about half of the tropical forest Sundarbans. Physical geography. The physical geography of Bangladesh is varied and has an area characterized by two distinctive features: a broad deltaic plain subject to frequent flooding, and a small hilly region crossed by swiftly flowing rivers. The country has an area of 147,570 square kilometers and extends 820 kilometers north to south and 600 kilometers east to west. Bangladesh is bordered on the west, north, and east by a 4,095-kilometer land frontier with India and, in the southeast, by a short land and water frontier with Burma. On the south is a highly irregular deltaic coastline of about 580 kilometers, fissured by many rivers and streams flowing into the Bay of Bengal. The territorial waters of Bangladesh extend 12 nautical miles, and the exclusive economic zone of the country is 200 nautical miles. Roughly 80% of the land mass is made up of fertile alluvial lowland called the Bangladesh Plain. The plain is part of the larger Plain of Bengal, which is sometimes called the Lower Gangetic Plain. Although altitudes up to 105 meters above sea level occur in the northern part of the plain, most elevations are less than 10 meters above sea level. Elevations decrease in the coastal south, where the terrain is generally at sea level. With such low elevations and numerous rivers, water and concomitant flooding is a predominant physical feature. About 10,000 square kilometers of the total area of Bangladesh is covered with water, and larger areas are routinely flooded during the monsoon season. The only exceptions to Bangladesh's low elevations are the Chittagong Hills in the southeast, the low hills of Sylhet in the northeast, and highlands in the north and northwest. The Chittagong Hills constitute the only significant hill system in the country and, in effect, are the western fringe of the north-south mountain ranges of Burma and eastern India. The Chittagong Hills rise steeply to narrow ridge lines, generally no wider than 36 meters, with altitudes from 600 to 900 meters above sea level. At 1,052 meters altitude, the highest elevation in Bangladesh is found at Maldok Mule, in the southeastern part of the hills. Fertile valleys lie between the hill lines, which generally run north-south. West of the Chittagong Hills is a broad plain, cut by rivers draining into the Bay of Bengal, that rises to a final chain of low coastal hills, mostly below 200 meters, that attain a maximum elevation of 350 meters. West of these hills is a narrow, wet coastal plain located between the cities of Chittagong in the north and Cox's Bazar in the south. About 67% of Bangladesh's non-urban land is arable. Permanent crops cover only 2%, meadows and pastures cover 4%, and forests and woodland cover about 16%. The country produces large quantities of quality timber, bamboo, and sugarcane. Bamboo grows in almost all areas, but high-quality timber grows mostly in the highland valleys. Rubber planting in the hilly regions of the country was undertaken in the 1980s, and rubber extraction had started by the end of the decade. A variety of wild animals are found in the forest areas, such as in the Sundarbans on the southwest coast, which is the home of the Royal Bengal tiger. The alluvial soils in the Bangladesh plain are generally fertile and are enriched with heavy silt deposits carried downstream during the rainy season. Human geography. Urbanization is proceeding rapidly, and it is estimated that only 30% of the population entering the labor force in the future will be absorbed into agriculture, although many will likely find other kinds of work in rural areas. The areas around Dhaka and Comilla are the most densely settled. The Sundarbans, an area of coastal tropical jungle in the southwest and last wild home of the Bengal tiger, and the Chittagong Hill Tracts on the southeastern border with Burma and India, are the least densely populated. Climate. Bangladesh has a tropical monsoon climate characterized by wide seasonal variations in rainfall, high temperatures, and high humidity. Regional climatic differences in this flat country are minor. 3 seasons are generally recognized: a hot, muggy summer from March to June, a hot, humid and rainy monsoon season from June to November, and a warm hot, dry winter from December to February. In general, maximum summer temperatures range between 38 and 41 degrees Celsius. April is the hottest month in most parts of the country. January is the coolest month, when the average temperature for most of the country is 16–20 degrees Celsius during the day and around 10 degrees Celsius at night. Winds are mostly from the north and northwest in the winter, blowing gently at 1 to 3 km per hour in northern and central areas and 3 to 6 km per hour near the coast. From March to May, violent thunderstorms, called northwesters by local English speakers, produce winds of up to 60 km per hour. During the intense storms of the early summer and late monsoon season, southerly winds of more than 160 km per hour cause waves to crest as high as 6 meters in the Bay of Bengal, which brings disastrous flooding to coastal areas. Heavy rainfall is characteristic of Bangladesh, causing it to flood every year. With the exception of the relatively dry western region of Rajshahi, where the annual rainfall is about 1,600 mm, most parts of the country receive at least 2,300 mm of rainfall per year. Because of its location just south of the foothills of the Himalayas, where monsoon winds turn west and northwest, the region of Sylhet in northeastern Bangladesh receives the greatest average precipitation. From 1977 to 1986, annual rainfall in that region ranged between 3,280 and 4,780 mm per year. Average daily humidity ranged from March lows of between 55 and 81% to July highs of between 94 and 100%, based on readings taken at selected stations nationwide in 1986. About 80% of Bangladesh's rain falls during the monsoon season. The monsoons result from the contrasts between low and high air pressure areas that result from differential heating of land and water. During the hot months of April and May, hot air rises over the Indian subcontinent, creating low-pressure areas into which rush cooler, moisture-bearing winds from the Indian Ocean. This is the southwest monsoon, commencing in June and usually lasting through September. Dividing against the Indian landmass, the monsoon flows in 2 branches, one of which strikes western India. The other travels up the Bay of Bengal and over eastern India and Bangladesh, crossing the plain to the north and northeast before being turned to the west and northwest by the foothills of the Himalayas. Natural calamities, such as floods, tropical cyclones, tornadoes, and tidal bores are destructive waves or floods caused by flood tides rushing up estuaries ravage the country, particularly the coastal belt, almost every year. Between 1947 and 1988, 13 severe cyclones hit Bangladesh, causing enormous loss of life and property. In May 1985, for example, a severe cyclonic storm packing 154 km/h winds and waves 4 meters high swept into southeastern and southern Bangladesh, killing more than 11,000 persons, damaging more than 94,000 houses, killing some 135,000 head of livestock, and damaging nearly 400 kilometers of critically needed embankments. Annual monsoon flooding results in the loss of human life, damage to property and communication systems, and a shortage of drinking water, which leads to the spread of disease. For example, in 1988 2/3 of Bangladesh's 64 districts experienced extensive flood damage in the wake of unusually heavy rains that flooded the river systems. Millions were left homeless and without potable water. half of Dhaka, including the runway at the Shah Jalal International Airport an important transit point for disaster relief Supply was flooded. About 2 million tons of crops were reported destroyed, and relief work was rendered even more challenging than usual because the flood made transportation of any kind exceedingly difficult. A tornado in April 1989 killed more than 600 people, possibly many more. There are no precautions against cyclones and tidal bores except giving advance warning and providing safe public buildings where people may take shelter. Adequate infrastructure and air transport facilities that would ease the sufferings of the affected people had not been established by the late 1980s. Efforts by the government under the third five-year plan were directed toward accurate and timely forecast capability through agrometeorology, marine meteorology, oceanography, hydrometeorology, and seismology. Necessary expert services, equipment, and training facilities were expected to be developed under the United Nations Development Programme. River systems. The rivers of Bangladesh mark both the physiography of the nation and the life of the people. About 700 in number, these rivers generally flow south. The larger rivers serve as the main source of water for cultivation and as the principal arteries of commercial transportation. Rivers also provide fish, an important source of protein. Flooding of the rivers during the monsoon season causes enormous hardship and hinders development, but fresh deposits of rich silt replenish the fertile but overworked soil. The rivers also drain excess monsoon rainfall into the Bay of Bengal. Thus, the Great Rivers System is at the same time the country's principal resource and its greatest hazard. The profusion of rivers can be divided into 5 major networks. The Jamuna Brahmaputra is 292 kilometers long and extends from northern Bangladesh to its confluence with the Padma. Originating as the Yarlung Tsangpo River in China's Xizang Autonomous Region and flowing through India's state of Arunachal Pradesh, where it becomes known as the Brahmaputra, it receives waters from 5 major tributaries that total some 740 kilometers in length. At the point where the Brahmaputra meets the Tista River in Bangladesh, it becomes known as the Jamuna. The Jamuna is notorious for its shifting sub-channels and for the formation of fertile silt islands. No permanent settlements can exist along its banks. The second system is the Padma-Ganges, which is divided into 2 sections, a 258-kilometer segment, the Ganges, which extends from the western border with India to its confluence with the Jamuna some 72 kilometers west of Dhaka, and a 126-kilometer segment, the Padma, which runs from the Ganges-Jamuna confluence to where it joins the Meghna River at Shandpur. The Padma-Ganges is the central part of a deltaic river system with hundreds of rivers and streams some 2,100 kilometers in length flowing generally east or west into the Padma. The third network is the Meghna River system, which courses from the northeastern border with India to Shandpur, where it joins the Padma. The Meghna, at 669 kilometers by itself the longest river in Bangladesh, is formed by the union of 6 lesser rivers. Below the city of Kalapur it is known as the Meghna. When the Padma and Meghna join together, they form the 4th river system the Padma-Meghna which flows 145 kilometers to the Bay of Bengal. This mighty network of 4 river systems flowing through the Bangladesh plain drains an area of some 1.5 million square kilometers. The numerous channels of the Padma-Meghna, its distributaries, and smaller parallel rivers that flow into the Bay of Bengal are referred to as the mouths of the Ganges. Like the Jamuna, the Padma-Meghna and other estuaries on the Bay of Bengal are also known for their many chars. A 5th river system, unconnected to the other 4, is the Karnafuli. Flowing through the region of Chittagong and the Chittagong Hills, it cuts across the hills and runs rapidly downhill to the west and southwest and then to the sea. The Feni, Karnafuli, Sangu, and Matamura an aggregate of some 420 kilometers are the main rivers in the region. The port of Chittagong is situated on the banks of the Karnafuli. The Karnafuli Reservoir and Karnafuli Dam are located in this area. The dam impounds the Karnafuli River's waters in the reservoir for the generation of hydroelectric power. The Ganga-Brahmaputra rivers contribute nearly 1,000 million tons per year of sediment. The sediment contributed from these two rivers forms the Bengal Delta and submarine fan, a vast structure that extends from Bangladesh to south of the equator, which is up to 16.5 km thick, and contains at least 1130 trillion tons of sediment accumulating over the last 17 million years at an average rate of 665 million tons per year. The Bay of Bengal used to be deeper than the Mariana Trench, the present deepest ocean point. During the annual monsoon period, the rivers of Bangladesh flow at about 140,000 cubic meters per second, but during the dry period they diminish to 7,000 cubic meters per second. Because water is so vital to agriculture, more than 60% of the net arable land, some 91,000 km squared, is cultivated in the rainy season despite the possibility of severe flooding, and nearly 40% of the land is cultivated during the dry winter months. Water Resources Development has responded to this dual water regime by providing flood protection, drainage to prevent overflooding and water logging, and irrigation facilities for the expansion of winter cultivation. Major water control projects have been developed by the national government to provide irrigation, flood control, drainage facilities, aids to river navigation and road construction, and hydroelectric power. In addition, thousands of tube wells and electric pumps are used for local irrigation. Despite severe resource constraints, the government of Bangladesh has made it a policy to try to bring additional areas under irrigation without salinity intrusion. Water resources management, including gravity flow irrigation, flood control, and drainage, were largely the responsibility of the Bangladesh Water Development Board. Other public sector institutions, such as the Bangladesh Krishi Bank, the Bangladesh Rural Development Board, the Bangladesh Bank, and the Bangladesh Agricultural Development Corporation were also responsible for promotion and development of minor irrigation works in the private sector through government credit mechanisms. Area and boundaries. Area, total 147,570 km squared. Country comparison to the world, 94 land, 133,910 km squared. Water, 10,090 km squared. Land boundaries, total 4,246 km. Countries, Myanmar 193 km, India 4,053 km, coastline, 580 km, maritime claims, contiguous zone, 18 in Mi-continental shelf, up to the outer limits of the continental margin exclusive economic zone, 200 in Mi-territorial sea, 12A. Mi, elevation extremes, lowest point, Indian Ocean 0 m highest point, in the Maldok Range at 1052 m, not Kyokudong or Tajingdong. Resources and land use, natural resources, natural gas, arable land, timber, coal. Land use, arable land, 55.39% permanent crops, 3.08% other, 41.53%, irrigated land, 47,250 km squared, total renewable water resources, 1,210.6 km cubed, freshwater withdrawal, total 79.4 km cubed/year per capita, 560 m cubed/year. Environmental concerns, natural hazards, cyclones. Much of the country routinely swamped with water during the summer monsoon season. Droughts, environment, current issues, many people are landless and forced to live on and cultivate flood-prone land. Limited access to potable water. Waterborne diseases prevalent. Water pollution, especially of fishing areas, results from the use of commercial pesticides. Groundwater contaminated by naturally occurring arsenic. Intermittent water shortages because of falling water tables in the northern and central parts of the country. Soil degradation and erosion. Deforestation. Severe overpopulation, environment, international agreements, Party to, biodiversity, climate change Kyoto Protocol, desertification, endangered species, environmental modification, hazardous wastes, law of the sea, ozone layer protection, ship pollution, wetlands signed, but not ratified, none of the selected agreements. See also, 2007 South Asian floods, Bangladesh, Bangladesh Climate Multi-Donor Trust Fund, List of islands of Bangladesh, references. This article incorporates a public domain material from websites or documents of the Library of Congress Country Studies. This article incorporates a public domain material from websites or documents of the CIA World Factbook. This article incorporates a public domain material from websites or documents of the United States Department of State. Further reading, Rashid, Haruna. Geography of Bangladesh. Dhaka, Bangladesh, University Press. ISBN A984-05-1159-9. External links, Soil Maps of Bangladesh, European Digital Archive on the Soil Maps of the World.